Hello, everybody, and welcome to a little alternate version of Fresh Off the Field from WTK's Rock Solid Sports. I got Joseph Bonanno here with me tonight. I'm your host, Jack Foster. Neither of us made the trip to Pittsburgh, but we're here reacting to one of the wildest Tennessee victories we've seen in a while. Joseph, the Vols escaped Pittsburgh with a win. It wasn't pretty, but they win 34-27 in overtime. They made the plays when they counted at the end with the Cedric Tillman touchdown, but obviously it was quite a journey to get there throughout those 60 minutes, obviously going on into overtime. So what's your biggest general takeaway from tonight's Tennessee win?
Well, I have a few takeaways, but number one is the Tennessee defense came to play tonight, and they were the reason that the Vols won this game. They held Pitt in some crucial situations, a blocked punt in the third quarter and a fumble in the third quarter from the Vols offense were responded by forced field goals by the Tennessee defense, both of which were missed. That's a 6-point swing. Pitt probably wins that game if they make both those field goals. However, Tennessee did a really good job of at least forcing them to kick the field goals and causing the misses. And that's the reason that Tennessee won this game. Their defense held strong.
Absolutely. And, concern from last week's win against Ball State was, can Tennessee get after the quarterback? Well, tonight they silenced all those doubters that they couldn't, because 26 quarterback pressures, Joseph. That's the most by the Volunteers in a single game in 10 seasons. So the pass rush showed up tonight.
Yeah, it was definitely the question of whether or not that Tennessee front seven would be able to get some push on that Pitt offensive line. And they showed that they could, and while it may not be their intention, one thing that Tennessee did do was knock Keaton Slovis, the Pitt quarterback, out of the game due to injury. He was hit so much. You mentioned the 26 QB pressures. A majority of those came on him in that first half. And then that strip sack fumble recovery at the end of the first half, that knocked him out of the game. And that really changed the entire script, because if Slovis is still in there in the second half, Pitt might win this game by a lot more.
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing to think what would have happened, considering how poor Tennessee's offensive performance was in the second half compared to the first half. But you mentioned arguably the play of the game, the strip sack fumble from Tyler Barron on Keaton Slovis to set up that field goal for Tennessee to go up 7 entering the break. The third quarter didn't see much action. That 24-17 score stood strong. But looking at the Tennessee offense, of course, there was a lot of errors going around. But, Cedric Tillman had a couple of drops. Hendon Hooker had a couple of overthrows. But overall, what are some positives you saw out of this offensive unit tonight as we head into Akron week next week?
They were able to fight back, especially when they found themselves in the bad holes that they did, especially with the drops early and the overthrows early. Hendon Hooker really showed that he's a SEC quarterback and he can compete with any defense that you throw up against him. I mean, we saw that a little bit last year with the Alabama game, a little bit with the Georgia game before it got out of hand. But I think year 2 for Hooker in this offense, he is shown to be a lot different. And he didn't let the drops or the overthrows bother him. He kept throwing. He kept trusting his number one target in Cedric Tillman. And we saw Tillman make the plays when they mattered. I mean, he was nine catches for 162 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown coming probably in the most important spot in overtime, securing that win for the Vols. But he also had that 61-yard reception to set up another touchdown that gave Tennessee the lead there in the second quarter. So despite the drops and the overthrows from Tillman, I think he did a really good job bouncing back. And I really think that connection there was the biggest takeaway. Another thing is just the rest of something we saw in week 1, the rest of the wide receivers being as deep as they are. Jalen Hyatt, 11 catches for 73 yards. Didn't really see him a lot in that first half, but in the second half, he was kind of that go-to guy. Hey, we need a first down. We need some yards. Let's get it to Hyatt. And then obviously Brew McCoy, 4 catches for 58 yards and a huge touchdown there in the first half to get Tennessee on the board or to get them on the board again. He had a huge game, and he had that one catch there in the second half that got Tennessee a first down on a crucial, I think it was 3rd and 9, I believe.
Yeah, 3rd and 9. That drive ended in points.
Threw it to the third. Yeah. He threw it to the Hooker, threw it to McCoy on the sideline. He broke a tackle, and was able to get the first down and fight for it. It kind of showed a little bit of Jawan Jennings fight in there from McCoy, which is kind of cool because they both wear number 15. It could be a decent comparison for McCoy by the end of the season.
Yeah, McCoy plays really physical, plays really big, plays true to his size, but he's also shifty and nifty and can make guys miss. I was impressed with what I saw from all of the Vols receivers other than a couple of Tillman drops, but, Tillman's a stud. He came up when it mattered most in the end, boxing the cornerback out to make that, really big touchdown there in overtime. And then Tennessee defense took care of the rest. 4th and goal, they shut Pittsburgh down. They shut Nick Patty, backup quarterback, down for Pittsburgh. And, this Tennessee defense, I think that's definitely the story of the night, is how well they were able to disrupt the backfield moving forward. If you're a Tennessee fan, you hope to see that, more of that. And I don't see why it would slow down. They did it against a top 20 opponent in Pitt. And now, Joseph, this is 2 wins for Josh Heupel as on true road games against top 20 opponents. This is a big program win, arguably the biggest.
Yeah, something I heard earlier today heading into the game is that winning big games produces more winning. And that's exactly what the Vols needed today against a top 20 opponent in Pittsburgh, especially with a Florida team set to come in town here in 2 weeks, with teams like Kentucky and Alabama set to visit the Vols in Neyland Stadium as well later in the season. This was a turning point win. It would have been a turning point win last year if they had won the game. Unfortunately, it didn't go that way for the Vols, but this year they were able to bounce back and able to take this one from Pittsburgh. Now they're 2-0. They have an easy game next week. I should say an easy game next week against Akron, a game that they should win pretty easily. And then that sets you up to be 3-0 heading into a really exciting matchup with Florida and Anthony Richardson.
Absolutely. And as we've repeated, it wasn't the prettiest of wins, but a win's a win. And this is a big program win for the Vols. Amari Thomas said it best in the post-game press conference up in Pittsburgh. This is a type of game, when they made these mistakes last year, they ended up losing a type of game like this. But the Vols found a way to win it tonight on the road in Pittsburgh in that environment. Tennessee 2-0 for the first time in the Josh Heupel era. They'll come back to Knoxville to host Akron next week, and Joseph Bonanno and I will be on site for coverage. And we'll see you next time on Fresh Off the Field. Appreciate you watching.